funny, isn't it? How a man can work for 30, 40 years and still be broke. Not lazy, not foolish, not wasteful. Just broke. He followed the rules, showed up every day, paid his bills, did his best, and now he's tired. He's wondering where it all went. And he's angry, not loud angry. Just that quiet kind that settles in your chest and doesn't leave. I've seen it too many times to count. Men and women who say, if only I'd been born into a different family. If I'd gone to a better school. If I had more time, more support, more money to begin with. I understand that feeling. I really do. I used to sit on the porch at dusk and wonder those same things. I'd watch the sky fade and think, if life had just been a little kinder, maybe I'd be further along by now. But let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Circumstance is the soil. But you're the seed. And some people spend their whole lives blaming the dirt, while others learn how to grow anyway. You wake up tired. You get dressed, go to work, keep your head down. You hope the paycheck stretches. You come home, eat, sleep. And tomorrow you do it again. And somewhere in the back of your mind is this quiet voice saying, maybe next year will be better. But nothing changes. Because nothing inside has changed. That's the part they don't tell you. They tell you, get a good job. Be responsible. Save what you can. But they don't tell you how to deal with disappointment that lingers for decades. Or how to carry the weight of a childhood that never gave you a fair start. Or what to do when you did everything right and still ended up behind. So you blame the only thing you can see, the circumstances. I didn't go to college. I had a child too young. I lost time taking care of everyone else. All of that may be true, but here's what I want you to hear, gently, from someone who's been there. Blame keeps you still. Ownership moves you forward. When you blame, you wait. You wait for the economy to change, for the government to fix things, for your job to pay more, for someone to see your worth. But when you take ownership, something shifts. Ownership doesn't mean it was your fault. It means you accept the truth, that where you are is yours to change. That's not easy. That's not comfortable. And it sure as hell doesn't happen overnight. But it's the beginning of power. You see, the man who blames his circumstances stays inside them. He builds a house inside the very thing he hates and calls it home. He gets good at surviving, not changing. I've watched people decorate their cages with justifications. My parents never taught me. My job doesn't allow me to grow. My life's just not like theirs. But let me ask you something. If you keep telling the same story, how can your life write a different chapter? Sometimes people say to me, but you don't know what I've been through. And they're right. I don't. I don't know the losses you carry, the shame, the setbacks, the people who left, the years you feel you've wasted. But I do know this. I've seen men rise from nothing with less than you have right now. And I've seen others with every opportunity in the world throw it all away. So the real difference, it isn't the start. It's the shift. It's that moment, quiet, personal, when a person decides, I'm done blaming, I'm done waiting. This is my life now. That moment, that's where wealth begins. Not dollars, not status, wealth in the mind, in the will, in the quiet belief that your hands can still build something meaningful, even if the world never handed it to you. Maybe no one ever told you this before, but I will. You're not poor because of what happened. You stay poor because you gave your power away. To your past, to your fear, to your excuses. to the story you've been told and retold until you started believing it. But you can change that. You can rewrite the story. No, not overnight. Not without work. Not without facing some hard truths. But you can. And it starts by looking at your life, really looking. And asking, where am I still blaming? Where have I decided that I can't? That's not weakness. That's courage, because the ones who change their lives aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who finally said, I'm done living inside the excuse. Now maybe you're feeling a little uneasy hearing this. That's all right. Sometimes the truth comes like a cold wind through the cracks, not to hurt you, but to wake you up. Let it wake you, because once you see it, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. And from that point on, you've got a choice to make. Do you keep living by the story that says you're stuck? Or do you start digging, planting, growing? Even in the soil you didn't choose? You're not helpless. Friend, you're just early in the process. And that's a good place to be. It's strange, isn't it? How a man can carry the same story for 20, 30 years and never once stop to question it. He just keeps going, keeps repeating the same thoughts, the same patterns, the same quiet justifications. Until one day, he wakes up not just poor in his wallet, but poor in spirit, poor in belief, poor in imagination, and he doesn't know when it happened. But I'll tell you something, son, and I say this gently, most people don't stay poor because of money. They stay poor because of memory. Not the kind of memory that lives in photographs. I mean the kind that lives in the body, in the nervous system, in the places you don't even notice anymore. That memory says, life's hard. It says, people like us don't get ahead. It says, be careful, be small, don't ask for too much. And over time, you stop questioning it. You start living inside it. That's how poverty becomes a mindset, not a bank account. Let me tell you about a boy I knew. He grew up watching his mother count coins at the kitchen table, every night. Quarters, dimes, folded bills. She'd whisper numbers under her breath, like a prayer. They were always behind on something. Rent, lights, groceries. The boy learned early, there's never enough. Even when he grew older, got a job, earned more than his parents ever did, he still lived like he was broke, wouldn't invest, wouldn't ask for a raise, wouldn't dream too big. Because somewhere deep inside, he still believed money was slippery, temporary, dangerous even. He didn't need new income. He needed a new internal economy. You see what I'm saying? If you were raised in fear, you'll spend even when you have money and still feel broke. If you were raised in survival, you'll avoid risk even when the opportunity is golden. If you were raised on guilt, you'll sabotage your success just to feel safe again. That's what I mean when I say poverty isn't just about dollars. It's about old beliefs you never asked for, but still carry, like they're yours. Now here's the hard part. Those beliefs, they don't shout. They don't show up and announce themselves. They whisper, and most days, you don't even hear them. You feel them, like when you're about to apply for a better job, and something inside says, you're not ready, or when a chance to grow shows up, and you say, it's not the right time. That's not logic talking. That's memory. And unless you shine a light on it, it'll keep running your life. Quiet, invisible, in control. That's why blaming circumstances is so tempting. It lets you stay blind to what's really running the show. You ever seen a dog that's been chained too long? Even when you unclip the chain, he won't run. He stays right there, Like the leash is still there in his mind. People do the same thing. They're free to choose, free to grow, free to change direction, but they don't. Because in their mind, they're still stuck, still tied to the town they grew up in. The job they hate. The old identity they never updated. They think it's reality, but it's just habit. I once met a woman in her 60s, worked 3 jobs, always tired, always stressed. I asked her what she wanted most. She said, "Peace." I said, "Then why are you still carrying chaos?" She looked at me, confused, and I told her gently, "Because it's familiar. That's all." Some of us hold on to struggle not because we like it, but because it's what we know. And deep down, we fear the unknown more than we hate the struggle. Better the pain I understand than the peace I don't trust. That's the mindset that keeps people broke, not just in money, in spirit, in relationships, in dreams, because every time something better shows up, they don't feel worthy of it, don't know how to hold it, don't believe it's real, so they drop it. You might not have created your early circumstances. You didn't choose your parents, your environment, your school system. But now you're the one telling the story, and the story matters. Because if you keep saying, "I never had enough," your brain will keep looking for proof. If you keep saying, "Nothing ever works out," you'll start sabotaging the things that do. But if you shift the story, even a little, if you begin to say, "Maybe I was meant to break this cycle," then the path begins to change, not overnight, but over time. One belief at a time, one choice at a time, one brave step outside the old narrative. Let me leave you with this. You are not your circumstances. You are not your family's patterns. You are not your paycheck. You are not your past. You are not the number in your account or the neighborhood on your ID. You are the person who decides what all of that means. You are the one with the power to respond differently. That's what separates those who rise from those who repeat. Not luck, not background, not even education. Just awareness and ownership. So I'll ask you, quietly, no judgment, where have you mistaken memory for truth? Where are you still living like the chain is there, even when it's gone? That's where the next part of your life begins, right there. In that question. You don't need a miracle. You don't need someone to save you. You don't even need a brand new beginning. You just need to begin right where you are. That's the truth most folks overlook. They think the answer lives somewhere else, in another city, another job, another life entirely. But the seed of change, it's already in your pocket. You just haven't planted it yet. You see, real wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your routine. What you do when you're tired. What you do when no one's watching. What you do after work. That's where poverty lives. And that's where wealth is born, not in the headlines of your life, but in the margins. I've met men who make 6 figures and still live paycheck to paycheck. And I've met quiet janitors who built small fortunes over time, not by earning more, but by living wiser. You don't need a promotion. You need a pattern. Let that settle for a moment, because that's where most people stay stuck. They think, once I get more money, I'll change. But no, you change first. You change how you treat your time. You change how you spend when you're sad. You change how you react when things get hard. That's the kind of change that lasts. Everything else is temporary. The man who waits for better circumstances is like a farmer who waits for perfect weather. He never plants. He talks about what he could grow, what he would do if the wind shifted just right. But his field stays empty. Year after year. Meanwhile, the wiser farmer? He plants anyway. He plants even when the sky looks uncertain. Even when the soil's a little dry. Even when the season seems late. Because he knows the harvest doesn't come from perfect conditions. It comes from consistent work. The same is true of your life. You don't need the wind to change. You need to plant. Even when you're afraid. Even when you're unsure. Even when it's hard. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to remind you what's possible. There's more strength in you than you've used. More discipline than you've developed. More wisdom than you've applied. Not because you're weak, but because you were never taught how to dig that deep. You were told to survive, but you were never taught how to build. And building requires something different. It requires patience. It requires vision. It requires telling yourself the truth, even when it stings. And here's one truth I had to learn the long way. No one is coming to save you. But you're not alone. There are voices like this. Voices of men who've been poor, confused, angry, and came out the other side. We're not special. We just stopped lying to ourselves. We stopped saying, it's the system. It's my boss. It's the way things are. And we started saying, this is my life, and I'm the one who has to live it. That was the turning point. You don't rise by blaming the storm. You rise by learning how to walk through rain. And you don't build wealth by wishing things were different. You build it by doing something different, quietly, daily, steadily. You know where your power lives? In that hour after work. In that decision to learn instead of numb. In that moment when you want to quit. But don't. That's the wealth most people miss. Because it doesn't sparkle. It doesn't shout. It grows in the background, like roots. But one day, it breaks through the surface. And people say, wow, where did that come from? And you'll know the answer. From years of choosing differently, even when no one noticed. Let me be clear. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your past. You don't have to carry the shame of mistakes, bad choices, missed chances. Only have to carry responsibility for this next step. Just one step. Not 10. Not a perfect plan. Just a step that says, I'm moving forward now. Because blame will keep you circling the same mountain. Ownership will move you up a. And when you get higher, even just a little, you see more. You see what's possible. You see what you've survived. You see that maybe, just maybe, your story was never meant to end in survival, but in strength. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or whenever you find that still moment, ask yourself, what's one thing I can change, even if nothing else changes? Not everything. Just one thing. Maybe it's how you spend that first hour of the day. Maybe it's how you talk to yourself when you fail. Maybe it's finally saying, no more excuses. I'll learn what I need to learn, even if it takes me time. That's what wealth sounds like in the beginning. It's quiet. It's slow. But it's real. And if no one's told you this before, let me be the first. You're capable. You're not too late. You're not too far gone. You're not cursed. You've just been following a pattern that doesn't serve you, and the moment you see it, you can change it. Yes, even now. There was a young man I once knew, sharp mind, quick wit. Should have gone far, but every time life gave him a window, he'd find a reason not to climb through it. Too risky, too late. He'd tell you, with the straightest face you ever saw, that his life couldn't change, not unless something big happened. A new job, a lucky break, someone who believed in him more than he believed in himself, I used to sit with him on his porch some evenings. He'd talk. I'd listen. He thought he was stuck because of the town he grew up in. Thought he was poor because his father had been. Thought the world had already chosen his future. I didn't argue. I just asked him one thing over and over. What if that's not true? Sometimes he'd nod. Other times he'd change the subject. But one night, a cool, still night, he stayed quiet a long time after I asked. Didn't speak. Didn't shift in his chair. Just stared out at the street like he was seeing something old for the first time. And then, barely above a whisper, he said, "If it's not true, then I've wasted a lot of time." I looked at him gently and sighed. "No, you've been preparing." And I meant it, because sometimes all it takes is one moment of seeing clearly to redeem years of blindness. He changed after that. Not all at once. Not in a movie scene kind of way. But slowly, quietly, like a tree shifting toward the light. He started waking up earlier, reading again, keeping track of what he spent, saying no to things he used to say yes to. He stopped blaming the world for not handing him a better life and started building one with his own hands. And over time, the outer things followed. A new job, a better car, a move to a different town, a little house with sunlight in the kitchen and grass out front. But that was just the surface. The real wealth was inside. The clarity, the calm. The quiet power of a man who'd taken back the pen and started writing a new story. That's what I want for you. Not someone else's life. Not someone else's path. Yours. With all its rough edges and setbacks. But also its wisdom. Its strength. Its second chances. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be honest. Honest about the patterns that keep you stuck. Honest about the power you've given away. Honest enough to say, I'm done blaming the world. I'm ready to rebuild. That's where the shift begins. So if you've made it this far, listening, reflecting, I want to say something simple. I'm proud of you, not because everything's fixed, but because you stayed with the truth long enough to see yourself differently. That takes courage. Most people never find. And if this message touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who needs it. A friend, a brother, a daughter. Someone who's still blaming the soil and hasn't yet seen the seed. Let this be a ripple. A quiet one, but real, because maybe the world doesn't change through noise and speed. Maybe it changes when one person wakes up. And then another. And another. Until there are enough of us choosing better, not because we were forced, but because we finally knew we could. That's all for now. Take care of your thoughts. They become your path. And remember, circumstances may shape the beginning, but they do not write the end.